My fiance and I have been partners for 3 years and are getting married in June. He works from home 3 days a week and goes in on the remaining days. He isn't close with any of his coworkers since I've heard him often complain about how most of his coworkers are much older, except with this girl who I think joined a few months back. I've heard him say her name a few times, mostly harmless stuff. I guess about how she recommended a show to him, or had him try out her lunch, but not gonna lie, sometimes it's still a little annoying how much he values her input because it's a bit out of character. She's also the only coworker that I've heard him talk about random stuff with on his work calls. I'm not saying any of this is wrong, but I just want to be honest about the stuff that's been on my mind because it's possible I might be in the wrong here. He's been gone for a work trip to another branch with some other colleagues of his, including her. Last night, I texted him if he was done with dinner and was good to talk. He said he was just taking a stroll with her. I froze for like a good couple of seconds, asked who else is there. He said no one, they just decided to take a walk and check the area around their hotel out. I was not okay with this, told him this was crazy, disrespectful, and called him. He declined my call and texted back saying there's nowhere for him to talk to me in private at the moment, that he'll call me back. I called again. He answered. I told him this was not okay at all. What was he doing and taking a walk so late with her? He just responded breezily because I guess she was close and just said, I'll call you back when I get back to the hotel. 15 minutes later, he called me, and I kind of went off on him. I said he had no business being out this late alone with a woman, as someone who's about to be my husband in less than 3 months. He said he was just bored, she was the only person he was cool with, and they just went for a walk, that my implication was hurtful to him. I calmed down, said I was sorry, but I was just not okay with it, so I'd appreciate it if he didn't do anything alone with her for my comfort. He said fine, and then said he was planning on going for a post-work lunch with her at one of the places they saw on their walk. I again asked who else, and he said just the two of them. I asked him to please invite someone else too. He said they don't vibe with anyone else. We had a bit of a tense back and forth, and he relented, saying he'd invite someone else too, but it would ruin it, and the fact I couldn't trust him was so disappointing. I tried to explain that it wasn't about trust, just my peace of mind, but I did a bad job of explaining that. Today, he responded to my good morning messages very curtly. I know he's angry with me. Was I the a-hole? Top comment's a commenter. I've heard him say her name a few times. Mostly harmless stuff, I guess, about how she recommended a show to him, or had him try out her lunch. But NGL, sometimes it's still a little annoying how much he values her input because it's a bit out of character. He took a show recommendation from her and tried the food she had. The fact that you think that's him valuing her input so much says more about you than him. I said he had no business being out this late alone with a woman as someone who's about to be my husband in less than 3 months. It's incredibly normal to walk around the area after dinner when you're at a work conference, and guess what? Sometimes that means you're with someone that is the opposite gender. It's not a big deal. You're the a-hole. Original poster replied, I said it's out of character because it takes me ages to convince him to watch a show with me that I'm invested in. And I understand I may have overreacted to the stroll, that me being uncomfortable about it may be a me problem, and that's what I wanted to know. Commenter 1. Has he ever done anything suspicious? I don't think taking her recommendations or walking together at a work conference is enough to accuse him of cheating. Original poster replied, I didn't mean to accuse him of cheating. I guess that's what I couldn't explain properly. I just had a bad feeling in my gut about the whole thing and decided to voice it. I guess I should have considered it a bit more before doing that, since it seems the comments do think I overreacted. Commenter 2. And he relented, saying he'd invite someone else too, but it would ruin it. Not the a-hole. I really want to know what the other person is supposed to ruin if it's not a date. Commenter 3. It sounds to me like you have gotten bad vibes about their relationship prior to this and have not voiced them to him. The walk tipped you over the edge, and it seemed out of the blue for him, because you haven't mentioned you were uncomfortable with the situation prior. This relationship could be totally innocent, but the fact that you feel he values her opinion over yours, TV show, is concerning for a couple getting married in a few months. You guys need to have a real and calm conversation about all of this. You need to be able to explain to him that it's not him having a friend at work that bothers you, but that it feels like he is valuing her opinion over yours, and that to you is building an emotional intimacy that he isn't with you. He may not even be aware of this. If he dismisses your concerns after a calm discussion, I think you have your answer. Update. Same day, 9 hours later, I had posted earlier in the day about me getting angry with my fiance for his one-to-one plans with his coworker. The replies made me realize I was in the wrong, so I called him and apologized for overreacting last night. He told me it was all good. I asked if he'd already asked another coworker to join them for lunch. He hadn't yet, so I told him I was okay with them making plans after work, and he thanked me for it. Full disclosure, my ex was a control freak when it came to me, wanting me to put the phone on speaker whenever I'd be talking to my friends or family, wanting updates every half hour, and I hated him so much at the end of it, and promised myself I'd never be a controlling partner like that, but it's possible I picked up some wrong norms from that period. My fiance's coworker also put up some photos on Insta of their lunch together, and their trip to a lake after, and I realized they're just coworkers who have similar interests. When I posted initially, it was just that, in my mind, he'd act out of character when it came to her, acting on show recs when he normally doesn't, replying to her texts fairly quickly when he normally takes a while, and I just thought that wasn't okay. But I also fully understand that my idea of right and wrong is a bit skewed due to my past, and I'm glad I was made to realize it before I went further down the road and became the kind of partner my ex was to me. Thanks. Top comments commenter. 1. The replies to your post made you realize you were wrong? There were a lot of replies that said, not the a hole. Did you miss those? Or were you just hell-bent on someone validating your denial? Because let me tell you, it is very inappropriate for your fiancé to be taking a romantic stroll after a date with a coworker. It's also inappropriate for him to go for a romantic walk to the lake after a lunch date. There is nothing appropriate about the boundaries they are crossing, and quit being gaslighted by the age-old argument that you're just being insecure. The majority of the time, it's intuition, not insecurity. Yes, he can be friends with a coworker, but there must be boundaries. Original poster replied, I checked all the comments on the earlier post now, and now the first comments that show up are different. Initially, the comments and a private message were telling me to quit the wedding because I was insecure. And I stopped. I just had flashbacks about what I used to say back then, and I felt sick. I'm sorry, I know I sound unstable of right now, but I'm really not. I'm just going to think about what I say when he comes back tonight. Commenter 2. You are uncomfortable, you express that. He should be taking that and asking what he can do to make you comfortable. He's putting her during a walk before you and your feelings. Late night walk? How late are we talking? Original poster replied it was 10 p.m. when I called. And the comments from the earlier post are all different now. They were different at the time. And I never want to be the insecure partner in a relationship, so I said I was okay with it. Commenter 3. I personally believe that he is playing you when it comes to her. She's posting pictures of them on their lunch together and going to the lake. No wonder he didn't want anyone having lunch with them. Why would she post pictures of them together at lunch and at a lake if they are just coworkers? She, in my opinion, just threw it in your face. What were her comments when she posted them? Good luck to you. Commenter 4. Just because you may have overreacted to a walk doesn't mean the situation is kosher. It just means you need to have a calm conversation with your fiancé about what makes you uncomfortable and why. If he knew you were uncomfortable with lunch and grudgingly said it was fine, why would he push it by also going to the lake after? I'm married, and that would bother me if my husband did that, after I expressed I was uncomfortable with the relationship. Last update. In my first post, I had only read the first few comments which said I was insecure, and it just triggered me because that's the last thing I ever want to come across as. So I had stopped reading after, and apologized to my fiancé. But most people in the end encouraged me to talk to my fiancé since despite my effort to be cool about it, it did bother me. My manner of speaking had been wrong the first time. It was over the top. So when he returned from his trip last night, I had decided to talk to him about it calmly. I apologized for my tone the first time and told him I was glad he had someone at work that he could be friendly with. And I'm glad he had a good lunch with her too. He told me it was fancy since they spent the company's allowance. But I just wanted to be honest with him, since I'd want him to be too, that it made me feel weird, like a bad stomachache. That it seemed like she was becoming more important to him than a friendly coworker should be. He said he sees her only 3 times a week for work, so how could she become important? He said, "Do I want him to not talk to any of his female friends?" And I said, "No, I've never had a problem with either of his two close female friends, that I've met them, and he knows I enjoy their company too, and would never ask him to limit time with them, and he knows that." He said, "If I can trust him with them, do I not trust him with someone who's just a coworker?" This time, I explained clearly that it's not about trust. I trust him completely. It's about comfort. It was making me uncomfortable, and I recognize this is a me issue, but I want him to help me out here while I come to terms with it. He said he'd do that for me, even though this would mean that we were punishing his coworker for our problems, since she also isn't cool with anyone else at work. But for our sake, he would. He promised to decrease non-work related contact with her and reduce the frequency of their lunches or ask someone else to tag along until I was cool with this, however long that may take. I was grateful and thanked him, and we've put this behind us. I'm glad we were able to deal with this, and I think we're stronger for it. Thanks. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Hey, it's crazy how Reddit and your shitty boyfriend gaslight you into apologizing. Follow your gut. If something feels fishy, it probably is. You know him better than any of us, so follow your gut. Original poster replied, "My gut feeling was never that he's cheating or anything like that. It's just a feeling that she has become too important too quickly for my liking. And that's what I calmly voiced, and he's going to take the steps we discussed." Commenter 2. Sounds like she's very important if her feelings are more important than your comfort. I'm sorry, but it's weird. Go with them. Tell him if she doesn't have many friends, she wouldn't mind one more. And go with them on walks, because that's weird as hell. Original poster replied, "I thought about what you said. I'd like to meet her to check out their behavior and also just so she's met me and can see us as a couple. I just think if we're together in front of her, that would calm my nerves. But I've just asked him to limit contact." He agreed. "And I don't want to normalize meetings with her, at least until I'm okay with all this. I think meeting her together and then asking my fiance to not hang out would send mixed signals." Commenter 3. Even though we would be punishing her for our problems. How could she be important if I only see her 3 times per week? Commenter 4. Girl, he's gaslighting the freak out of you. If he only sees her 3 times a week tops, then letting her go shouldn't be a big deal. However, he's telling you this woman he sees only 3 times per week is a big deal, and a big enough deal to have a midnight stroll with. Oh, yeah, you totally blew the vibe when you kept calling him on their little stroll. At this point, I'd be questioning the relationship between his other 2 female friends. He's gaslighting you about everything. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't marry this guy.
My boyfriend and I moved in together about a year ago. I've been very clear from the second date that we ever went on that I don't want biological kids. I've discussed it at length with him, and until about 2.5 weeks ago, I thought we were on the same page. He told me he didn't think he could do another 18 years of child rearing, as he already has a 10-year-old daughter. She just moved in with us in January. He bought a house, we got a dog together. I was planning for an entire life with him and his daughter. Originally, he told me he bought the house so that his daughter would have a bedroom. He told me the other night his entire purpose in marrying me was to have a child. News to me, and that the whole reason he bought the house was so we could build towards having an actual family, minimizing the one that we already have. I've been crying in secret for 2 weeks. I finally accepted yesterday that I probably can't stay in this relationship. I wanted marriage, and he's telling me that marriage is innately tied to having a child with him. I can't compromise that part of myself. But I'm also trying not to spiral. My car broke down unexpectedly yesterday. It's raining oil out of the bottom, and I have no savings. I've been living paycheck to paycheck. I've been spending money on our mortgage, 4 pets, on activities with his daughter, on paying down credit. I have no idea what my next step should even be. And the worst part is that I still love him so much. He is such a good person, and everything feels so normal, except that he doesn't want to get married anymore, and he wants to have a kid. And I still don't. I am struggling to see solutions. I know I need to leave, but logistically, I am having so much difficulty figuring this out, especially trying to sort through my feelings in the midst of it. Edit, to clarify. I am not on the mortgage with him. I told him I would not sign anything together until if we ever married. I have been contributing to the basic cost of living things, mortgage payment, bills, groceries, etc., because I care about him and thought we were building towards a life together. I didn't want him to have to do things alone because I believed we were in a partnership. He has helped support me as well. However, he has also ignored my voice in ways I dismissed and am able to see now. I want to say I really appreciate everyone's suggestions and support. It is really helpful and meaningful and also validates my decision. So several people requested an update. Boy, have I got one for you. I dropped my vehicle at the mechanic's on Friday and waited until Tuesday to hear anything back. He called me back on Tuesday afternoon once I was just off of work to tell me that he had diagnosed the problem and it was going to be less than $300 to fix it. He told me it would be about a week before it was done. I began to make arrangements with a kind coworker of mine for rides to work, and then that evening I got a call from the mechanic again. He told me that he had gotten hold of the part he needed, replaced it, and that my car would be ready for pickup that evening. Tuesday night, when I got home from this, however, my boyfriend and I ended up in an extremely intense discussion, during which he once again clarified that he doesn't give two shits about getting married. Not only did he make us abundantly clear, he actually spent about 2 hours essentially dismissing, minimizing, and deflecting the importance of marriage to me, and kept throwing it in my face that the way I feel about marriage with him is the way he feels about kids with me. He said nothing would change if we got married, but when I asked why it matters so much, if nothing would actually change, why wouldn't he just get married to me, since it's obviously important to me? I got no response of any substance, only deflection and patronization. It was honestly devastating, and I couldn't do it justice typing it out, but I spent from 9 p.m. until 1 in the morning crying, and I sobbed myself to sleep. There was no room for denial at that point, and because my vehicle had miraculously been fixed, I had an out. Wednesday, I contacted a local landlord who I have rented from previously. I asked if they had any units available, and they did, within my price range. At a flat rate. She told me she would call me back, and she did, and she said I could come in the next day to look at it. Which brings us to today. After I got off work, I went straight to the landlord's office and called the keys to go look at the apartment. It's tiny, but it's perfect. I decided to take it, and I knew that when I got home, I had to tell him. He came home after me, and when he walked in the door, I asked if he had any plans made prior that evening, and he said no. I didn't want to disrupt anything that he had intended to do with the conversation of me moving out. But it turned out that he didn't. So we had it. I initiated by telling him I was moving out. And when he asked why, I told him that it was clear from our conversations over the last couple of weeks that there have been a lot of unspoken expectations that were affecting our relationship, and there was no way to gain clarity about those while we were living together. In that conversation, he told me that he had invested everything in our relationship, and he asked me what I had invested. He acted as though I had railroaded him through our entire relationship and told me that he was compromising on having children. But the one time that he asks me for anything, I refuse to compromise. He guilt-tripped me again about how he's either having kids with me or he's not going to have them at all due to his age, and this is his last chance. He told me he'll never date again if our relationship doesn't work. He blamed me for having to explain what is happening to his daughter. And based on what he said, I don't think he's going to let me say goodbye to her. He was surprised when I told him that I wanted the dog to stay with him. And I said, I am doing this because marriage and children in relationships don't have a gray area. I don't see a way to bridge that gap because we want different things, essentially. And I said, I'm not ending the relationship because I don't care about him, his daughter, our life, the dog, anything. But I'm doing it because I believe this is the right thing to do right now. I even told him I could be wrong, but I wasn't sure what else to say. And he went back to marriage. Not changing anything about the relationship and minimizing the value of it. He said he would still essentially be doing everything in the relationship and committing to it without marriage. And I responded to that by saying, I didn't understand how he could make all these commitments and invest so much, but be unwilling to fully commit through marriage. And the final nail in the coffin for me was when he said he views marriage as an institution, and he doesn't need a piece of paper to validate his relationship. And that he, unlike me, was not brought up in a religious environment of sheep that led him to believe marriage was the make or break of a successful relationship. After that, I cried a lot, so I went to get some ice cream. And I feel better now. I'm going to start moving my stuff into the new apartment tomorrow, and everything worked out at a rapid rate that tells me I'm on the right track. Thanks to the community for the encouragement here. I thought I was going crazy. And then after this conversation tonight, I realized that the only time I actually feel crazy is after I talk to him. I'm also looking forward to having my own place again, quiet, just for me. I know that I'll still be sad for a while, but I also know that I'm going to be okay. Relevant comments. Somebody said, I have to say, I'm a stranger, but I've been in relationships that make me feel stupid and crazy, and I am so proud of you. You did the right thing. Here's to new beginnings. It'll be hard for a bit, but that's more just because a lot of your routines are disrupted. I bet in 2 months you feel so good. Original poster replied, thank you for this. You made me tear up. I have been crying for almost 2 weeks straight, and today is the first day I haven't felt that weight. It's like my entire body has been lifted to my soul. There is still a lot to do, but I already feel it. And what you are saying about the routines is very true. This morning I went to make coffee, and that hour of our morning with coffee together has been really special to me. Today, I realized we won't be doing that anymore, and I cried. But I get to make my own routines again now. Original poster added more info in comment section. I think I said somewhere in an earlier comment that there were probably signs that I didn't register as relevant or important. I think mainly because most of the concerns I began to notice only after we moved in together. But the dismissal and sudden change in his attitude towards marriage tells me he was not ready to make a full commitment. Looking back, we began to have intimacy issues starting around the 1-year mark, shortly after moving in together. It has only continued to progress, and I think a lot of it could have to do with him harboring these feelings and resentments. He was dishonest with me, but the dumb thing about manipulation is that I think most people who are manipulating don't do it with malicious intent. And unfortunately, I allowed myself to get caught in a position where I trusted and relied on him more than I knew him, which led me to be willing to make commitments to him, moving in, helping with living costs and his daughter, etc., that I should have waited to do until I was sure that we were compatible. The way that he's acting right now, it's as though this was a one-sided breakup, even though we were at a mutual deadlock in our values. He doesn't see it that way. And I believe that his commentary when I told him I was moving out was a combination of feeling devastated and heartbroken and also extremely scared because he knows the reality behind how I have supported him and helped him in our relationship, especially with his daughter. He lashed out because he was defensive and hurt. I'm grateful to report, though, he's currently acting like I don't exist. So the moving process has been relatively painless, and I can tell that he is very uncomfortable and sad right now. Just like me. I am terrified, but I also feel in my soul that this was the right thing to do, and I know the feelings will pass. Thank you for your encouragement. I actually had never wanted to get married until I met my now ex-boyfriend, and that was a conversation we had after about a year of dating. Looking back, I think maybe he was just telling me what he thought I wanted to hear. Because if he had voiced any of these opinions that early, he knew I probably would have left. So in that right, it was specifically wanting to get married to him. This was because I thought I had really found a partner. Within the first year, there really weren't any indications to me that our relationship was transactional in any way. He was attentive, compassionate, when I expressed strong emotions, curious, thoughtful, considerate. But we also seemed to work well together, and really challenged each other to be better people in a lot of ways that I can truly say I wouldn't be the same person I am without having been in that relationship. It seemed like we shared the same goals, self-improvement, working towards financial independence, learning, educating ourselves, valuing authenticity. At one point, he even completed training on being a better dad and a better partner through some kind of online thing with one of his favorite self-help authors. It was only once we moved in together that things really started to change. And once his daughter moved in, it changed even more drastically. One of the most significant reasons I wanted to get married to him specifically was because I had never been in a relationship with someone who challenged me to be a better person. My spirituality became stronger. I became more confident in sharing my thoughts and feelings because he gave me space to do that in the first year, and I loved his daughter. I loved her. Getting to know her and be an objective but ever-present support for her really helped me gain perspective in a way that I treasured. I became a better person, more patient, better sense of humor, letting go of control issues. She called me her stepmom, and I loved being that for her, whatever it meant in her eyes. I think that there is a sense of unity in marriage, and I really wanted to feel fully integrated with her and him as her stepmom. Marriage seemed like a natural step in doing that. Additionally, I wanted to be involved in their life to that extent as well. I never wanted something to happen to any of us and not have the protection or allowance to see or involve myself in either his or her life. It is a commitment to me, a total commitment. A commitment to sharing values, sharing goals, sharing assets, sharing community, sharing life in every aspect, and I wanted that unity. I thought at one point I could trust him with that level of vulnerability. I wanted to share that with him. That's just my take on it. But I can see now that if those things had happened, it might just have been disastrous. So, we're here. I came back to just say thank you to you for this particular comment. This comment and your insight about the fallacy of the argument here actually changed a lot for me, and it helped me maintain my dignity poise when I encountered my ex spontaneously about 2 weeks ago. When we ran into each other, he did apologize to me for the specific comment he made about me not contributing anything to the relationship. But he stood his ground on marriage without having a child being pointless. Kids are amazing. He doesn't understand my perspective. And continued to minimize my desire to get married, told me if all I wanted was a ring, he would have gotten me one because he'd already made the commitment, except he still wasn't going to get married. He even tried to use how rapidly I moved out to justify this notion that I would have divorced him equally fast. Then, 2 days later, he started texting me, and when I didn't respond, he drove by me on the street honking and sent me an onslaught of text messages, essentially recanting everything that he said from our run-in, begging me to come back, telling me he suddenly didn't care about having kids, because if it were between marriage or not having me in his life at all, he would choose marriage every time. I attempted to set boundaries with him, said that we needed to go our separate ways, but he wouldn't leave me alone. I blocked him and haven't heard or seen anything from him since. But this comment really made a difference for me to be able to keep my head level about it all. Thank you.